And we're going to stay on topic with homelessness. Our next question is coming from Dan. Go ahead, please.
With visible increases in homelessness across the city, what is your plan to address both immediate shelter needs and long-term housing solutions, especially in coordination with local nonprofits and service providers?
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you. Currently, we have spent $300 million. This administration has spent over $300 million, and anybody to this day can drive up and down Central Avenue. We were just recently told that the pit count that was out there on the street, that's the amount of homeless people that are out there, has doubled in the last 3 years. That is what we're doing. We're attracting people to come here and commit crime on the streets. I don't see people who are just sleeping on the streets and are out there. I see people who are dealing drugs. I see people who are using prostitution and shoplifting and using the buses to escape the law enforcement. That's what I see. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we find solutions, and that solution would be to enforce the laws at the lower levels, making sure that we guide the individuals into projects that will push them away from homelessness and do valid treatment. Right now, we have treatment that is
Time
not
is up,
successful.
Mr. Sanchez. Thank you. Mr. Ubayas, you are next.
I don't think that arresting everyone for jaywalking is a solution. But I also don't think that throwing away people's personal belongings is a solution either. It actually makes it much more difficult for a person to get off of the streets. And by the way, it's just a mean thing to do. I've walked the streets out in East Central. I've talked with folk who have told me that things as tragic as their father's ashes being thrown away. And the most common thing for a person to lose in one of these 200 sweeps that Tim Keller's administration conducts per week is an identification card. Losing an ID card makes it infinitely more impossible for you to get off the streets, to get a job, to find housing, to connect with benefits. Instead, what we need to do is a comprehensive approach of street medicine, where we do outreach proactively, of transitional housing, so people have a way out of the Gateway Center and into true housing, and implementing the sequential intercept model as led by Miami in our criminal justice system to identify people suffering from serious mental illnesses and connect them with services.
Thank you. Mr. Keller, you are next, please.
You know, to say things that aren't just true, I think is just sad. And to hear a politician stand up here and just lie about what we do on the street, I don't care about that. But you know who does? The workers who do this every day. We do not throw away IDs. And if we do by accident, those people are held accountable. We do not sweep, we clean. There's a huge difference. And we offer services and we offer help. We can do more than just let people be trafficked and exposed to drugs on the streets. That's what my administration is about. It's about solving the problem. It's not about just looking at it and wishing it was better. So that's why we created the ACS department. That's why we created the Gateway Center. Because when I came into office, we took care of 0 people every night on the street. And now tonight, city workers working hard every day to actually give people access to treatment, to help them. And we always offer storage. We do that thousands of times now. Every single night, 1,000 people get help in the city. What we have to do is keep up that momentum and help another 1,000. That's a future, that's a real answer. That's not a politician way out of blaming someone else.
Time is up, Mr. Keller. Thank you. Mr. White.
You know, Mayor Keller talks a lot about the hundreds of millions of dollars that he has spent on programs and services for the homeless. He talks in his TV ad about having made 1,000 beds available for the homeless. What the hell do we have to show for it? We have a homeless problem that is out of control. I have said, look, we need to go and offer the services that are available to the homeless. And if they don't take us up on those services, if they ignore us, we have to enforce the law. The laws are very clear in Albuquerque. You can't camp on the streets, on the sidewalks, on our parks. We'll give them an opportunity to take advantage of the services, or they will be cited or arrested. Some say, well, that's cruel. You know what's cruel? If you're a family that lives in that neighborhood where all these tent cities are, if you're a business that's struggling to survive in that environment, Mayor, you're not sweeping anything. You're just moving it back and forth. It's just homeless whack-a-mole, and it hasn't worked, and it's destroying our city.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you like to have a rebuttal, 30 seconds?
I would. You know, if you think about what you're hearing, on the one hand, you're hearing things that simply aren't true and yet not an answer. On the other hand, you're hearing these examples of how we should just totally treat the homeless like they're not people. These folks deserve a chance at help. That is what my administration does at the same time as balancing public safety. We enforce drug laws. We enforce human trafficking laws. That's why we actually do clean encampments and offer services. You got to do two things at once when you're mayor. You can't just
Time
blame
is
the
up.
problem.
Thank
Doug,
you.
Doug, can I just say something to that? It's not what we're
like a
hearing,
rebuttal.
Mayor.
Muddle.
It doesn't reply. It doesn't qualify. I'm sorry. Our next question comes from Bob Clark. Go ahead, please, Bob.
Well, following up on that part of the conversation, all of you can answer this question. How will you plan to deal with the homeless people and their encampments for those who continue to refuse help and services over and over again?
Mr. Rubayez, you go first.
It's interesting to be called a liar by somebody who hasn't walked the streets and talked with people who live on it. I can challenge every single one of you out there tonight to go talk with someone in East Central and ask them whether their belongings have been swept and thrown away. And I know the answer because I do it. And so I think the answer does have to involve dignity. We don't have to fall to cruelty, because the problem is we are not offering the services that we are saying that we are, right? Have you been to the West Side Shelter? That's where the vast majority of our 1,000 people off the streets are. Those people are served by 3 caseworkers and no medics. They're 1 hour out of town. They have to take a bus in. And by the way, they give up their basic dignity to live there. They get searched. They have curfews. They don't have the right to associate with other people. These are not options any of you would choose. And I would never ask you to choose the West Side Shelter over dignity and freedom. We have to actually provide services and supports and long-term housing to get people off of the streets and back into our community.
Mr. Kelly, you're next.
Well, first off, we've all walked the streets. And I'm just saying every candidate, I was born and raised here, I live here, I'm on our streets every day. So I think we can at least accept that about all of us. And the truth is, we do have a West Side Shelter, the West Side Gateway, and it was an old jail. And my predecessor was the one who started that. What I did was rehab it. And now we also add services. And so it absolutely has more than 3 social workers. That's just wrong. That shows that you haven't been there and you don't know that much about it. Also, I know this. That's why we built the Gateway Center, is to eventually replace the West Side Gateway so that we have medical sobering, so that we have housing navigation centers for men and women, and so most importantly, that we have fentanyl treatment. And we already do street medicine. The answer to this is we have to do more. And that's what you see. You see candidates either proposing my ideas or just blaming the problem. I'm the one actually doing the work. That's why we got to keep it up.
Mr. Rubayez, would you like 30 seconds to rebuttal?
You know I've been to the West Side Shelter. You know because I set it up to the director who you fired for letting me take a tour.
She's not the director, and I didn't fire her.
She is no longer the director. That is correct.
Fact check. Channel 7 later.
Is that it, Mr. Rubayez? All right. Mr. White, you're next, please. Go ahead.
Mayor, it's not what we're hearing. It's what we see with our eyes every single day. If they took those homeless camps and those encampments and moved them to the country club, I would tell you you would act within 2 minutes to make sure that they were taken down. That is not fair to those families that have to live through the unimaginable, the unthinkable, what their families are seeing, or those businesses. I will tell you, if I'm elected mayor, this is not hard. Those encampments come down on day one. As I said to you, we will offer them the services, but we will make sure they understand the law will be enforced. The reason why they're all over our city is because the mayor allows it to happen. It is going unchecked. And folks, the Journal, if you don't believe it, the Journal said 90% of the public 2 weeks ago said crime and homelessness are the issues that are affecting our quality of the most, and it's what we as leaders should be addressing.
Okay, normally I would allow for rebuttal, but I won't in this case because we've had 2 questions addressing homelessness. Mr. Sanchez, you have the final reply on this.
Thank you. Crime and homelessness is our biggest problem. We also need to have some economic growth, but our biggest issue is crime and homelessness. Again, I'm going to say it, $300 million spent, and look at the streets. They are not changing. We still have a problem. We still have an issue with drugs, and we still have an issue with fentanyl. Recently, we attended a forum, and the forum had individuals who actually were in this Gateway Center that the mayor talks about. And one of the things, I know he's going to say he went out and helped them, but you know what? He went and helped them after the fact. Again, I said the mayor's policies are reactive and not proactive. We should be out there vetting and auditing these programs. One of the things we heard is we lost one program who lost their contract, got a new program, and the new program is worse than the one that we left before. Under my administration, we will be making sure that all of these programs are vetted and constantly looked at to make sure that the people are
Time
getting
is
the
up.
services they deserve.
Mr. Sanchez, thank you.